We are going to kick off our International Cochlear Implant Day 2022 video series with going back to the beginning and to pay tribute to Mr. Rod Saunders. Rod was the first multi-channel cochlear implant recipient implanted way back in 1978 by Professor Graham Clark and his team. Imagine being so desperate to regain your hearing that you volunteer to essentially be a guinea pig. The surgery had never been done before, and over 90% of the global scientific community said what Professor Clark was trying to do would be impossible. Yet Rod agreed to go ahead with it anyway. I had the privilege of meeting Rod for the first time in early 2007 during his first and only visit to the US. There he was reunited with Professor Graham Clark as well as Professor Jim Patrick for a gathering of cochlear implant recipients. I was dying to know. I was so intrigued to understand what was going through his mind when he agreed to be the guinea pig for this surgery. Professor Clark had put out a sort of a call for volunteers, if you will, and he only received 2 responses, and one of those was Rod's. So it certainly wasn't like people were lining up around the block to have this experimental surgery done. So it was really interesting to hear him tell his thought process. But at the end of the day, he just felt like he didn't have any other options. He had normal hearing for up until his mid-40s when he was unfortunately in a car accident and suddenly lost all of his hearing. So he was just absolutely desperate. He was married, he had children, he was working. So he was absolutely desperate to have his hearing back. And so that's what he said. I had to try. I had to at least try if there was going to be something that could help. And the other thing that just goes to highlight what an amazing human being he was is that he then said, even if it wouldn't have helped me, if it helped them get closer to helping the next person. And that's who he was, just an amazing human being. And I still marvel at how he downplayed the whole situation. I mean, to hear him tell it, it was just, this absolute no-brainer of a decision. And in response to thanking him, I was very much, any opportunity I had to have a chat with him, I was just always trying to convey on behalf of our cochlear implant recipients around the world how grateful we were for him for being that first one, for laying the groundwork for the rest of us. And you would have thought, he had loaned me $5 or something. It was like no big deal in his mind. He's like, well, I did what I could. And again, just what an amazing person. And just to point out, basically the scenario he was given, like I said in the beginning, there was no guarantees at all. The surgery had never been done before. Over 90% of the scientific community didn't believe that this could actually result in someone being able to hear and understand speech or understand even environmental sounds. And also to consider is what is now today usually an outpatient surgery, a cochlear implant. His surgery was 8 hours long. And then after the recovery, which obviously was, more extensive than it is now, he could only hear when he came to the clinic. There was no sound processor to take home with him. And it took a lot of tweaks and trying and reprogramming. I believe it was up to 3 months before he even heard or understood anything coming through when he would come back to the clinic and be hooked up to this wall-sized processor, what we now wear on our ear, with tiny little thing now. But he could only have those sounds or have that interaction when he came back to the clinic and was hooked up to that giant computer. And so imagine coming back, frequently for 3 months with no results. But he, again shows his personality and his perseverance of just coming back and coming back and coming back. And around the 3-month mark, he was able to understand someone saying hello to him and respond back appropriately, which I think shocked all of them, shocked everybody. Um, but then it was also several years before he had a sound processor, called a processor at the time, that he could actually take home with him. So his wife would also come to the clinic and try to talk with him when he was, connected to the computers in the clinic. So again, just an incredible story of perseverance and selflessness and courage. And I was so grateful I had the opportunity to meet up with Rod again while I was in Australia in late 2007, and spend some time with his family there and more time with him, which was just incredible. And particularly grateful because he passed away the following year. So as we kick off International Cochlear Implant Day, we're celebrating all week, but I thought it's only fitting to raise a glass, or rather a meat pie, which is his favorite food, in honor of this selfless, courageous man who paved the way for hundreds of thousands of us who came behind him. So thank you, Rod.